Welcome to doing business with a servant's heart. I almost messed that up. We want to serve. We don't want to mess it up. And my guest today is Rodney Waits. He's an inspired serial entrepreneur, which I am. So I'm excited to have him on. He's the host of Impact is Greater Than Influence. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I didn't want to mess it up. Rodney, welcome to the show. I'm fired up to have you.
Thank you, man. Well, I'm happy to be here.
Now, serial entrepreneur, we've heard that millions of times.
Yes.
And people have not been successful.
Sure.
People have. Why?
Well, I think that number one, I am a failure, but also because of that, I'm a success. So I think why is because so many people have great ideas. So many people want to be able to create products or services that deliver value, but they don't have that consistency behind it or the discipline it takes to continue. Because you may look at it like, well, maybe I'm not cut out for that, but you are. You just got to keep going. I heard some quote, it was the greatest thing ever, and it said, it's not that you're doing the wrong thing, it's that you're not doing the right things long enough.
Love it. That's a great quote. Remember that, audience. Listen to this again and hear that again and let that get deep inside you. Now, you're a realtor. Of course, you do other things. Your main gig is real estate. Why?
It's the foundation because I believe the greatest way to help someone is to help them achieve that next step in their life. A lot of people see real estate as that next step. They're like, I want to sell my house so that I can go into the proper funding to not only allocate for investing, but also build into my passions of creating my own business, right? People pull HELOCs most oftentimes get their own businesses going, something like that. But then also because of the fact that I think houses are extravagant. I love it. Beautiful. I think that there's something to do with people that think about owning multiple homes. I particularly work with a lot of investors and a lot of entrepreneurs because we align. And I think that it's good to be able to not only give them insight on what they can do with their property, but what they can do with the future properties.
And I love that you said alignment. So you don't work with everybody.
I don't.
You hear that, audience? He says no to people. He refers them out, right?
That's
I don't
right.
want to speak for you. Listen to that. Don't try to work with everybody. Now, another thing about house, and I told you about real estate, my dad was a contractor for 40 years.
Awesome.
It's an emotional, probably one of the most emotional events of people's lives.
That's right.
You handle that.
Honestly, I'm very passionate about helping them see what I've seen. So in the event that I can feel very confident in certain part of my expertise, if I can be there for that person and help them even grasp it 1% more than they had it before, it can potentially change their life. So that's why. It's because I've been there, namely. And listen, I have started off, since we talked about failure in the beginning, I will start this off to tell you that through this previous market that we just experienced, I was building my very own family home and had $48,000 sunk into a new construction home to come. And because the rates went up, I was looking at $2,000 additional in mortgage every single month, plus an extra amount down to be able to buy the house. And I lost it. I lost it because I knew I didn't want to suffer for the long haul. I knew that compromising with myself and saying, hey, there'll be another house. There'll be another opportunity. Keep going and just use this as a learning lesson. That didn't just resemble what I was going through with that house. It resembled what I was going through in this stage of my life.
Does that loss make you a failure?
No,
Actually,
not at all.
I love that story. And that's a recent story.
Literally 3 months ago.
Right. Yeah. And you're a young guy, and young is all about how you feel. With real estate, there's a ton out there. Again, I told you I'm in California. There's so many people become realtors every day.
There is.
What makes you different? Why would that entrepreneur want to work with you?
I love that. So I actually am not a investment specialist. I'm not a first-time home specialist. I'm not a second home specialist. I'm a people specialist. So when you work with me, you're working with me because I care about you. I took on a life coach about 2 months ago, one of the most inspiring men I've ever met in my life. And he said, what's the number one job as a coach? Because I'm a disruptive real estate coach now as well. And I said, well, I don't know, give you a blueprint, right? Like blueprints are important. Strategies are important. Scalability, measuring, all these things that you can learn. But he said, no, it's for them to love you.
Wow.
He said the number one thing for your coach that's right for you, that aligns with you, is to love.
How many times do you hear love and business together?
You don't, rarely.
Amen.
You don't.
It's in my last podcast I did, we talked about that because it's just, they seem not yin yang, they seem completely opposite in
Right.
their mind, which is why it's doing business with a servant's heart
Love that.
is loving your people.
Yes.
Which let's go through a journey. I'm buying a home. How are you going to love me to help me buy my home?
So first, I'm going to figure out what motivates you to think this is your best step next. I'm not going to say, well, I'm not going to go show you houses until you're pre-approved. I'm going to dive in and say, hey, that's awesome. What makes you want to go down this path? They're going to say, well, I just really want to own my own place. I'm tired of paying my landlord and having them own something instead of me. I'm like, great. So you want to take some control, some initiative, some type of personal fulfillment in buying a home. I love that. How else are you educating yourself in this? What can I offer as a resource? And you're going to be fired up as I am about shopping for a house now, because we both know that this could potentially not only set you to be the best step next, but for anything to come. It's a mindset. It's a seed. It's some kind of installation that naturally happens, and you get to see it literally come to fruition with someone that cares about you.
Love the mindset word. That's needs to be used more. Let's do another scenario.
Sure.
Okay, so I want to buy a home.
Okay.
All my buddies have multiple $1 million homes.
Sure.
I want to be like my buddies. Get me a home.
Okay.
Rodney.
Well, I think that you might be looking at a $1 million home, but does that potentially serve you to create more of what you're looking for? Right? Like, think about it. Like, you could be just wanting to keep up with the Joneses. Let's go really find something that sets you on fire. Let's really go find something that you can hone into, get to know, and then turn around and share it with all your millionaire friend buddies or the millionaire house broke buddies. And then they'll have true fulfillment then too.
That's a huge, wow. I knew you'd go that way, but it's interesting how you say, you know what, Steve, that $350,000 home is exactly what you and your wife are looking for.
Yes,
You're happy and they're not. And you save money.
that's right.
And you're happy because you helped the client.
And they come back.
Audience, did you just hear that story? I did that purposely. I want you to think about how many realtors will do that for you. I know very few, maybe 1%. With that being said, it's real estate leads to other things. I know you're a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Again, I love that because I am as well. What other things are you doing?
So right now, currently, I have the disruptive real estate practice. That is something that goes hand in hand with the entrepreneurs that want to grow in the real estate business. But I want them to disrupt the normal everyday business model and learn it with a servant's heart, right? Next thing is this personal brand. I'm truly aiming to impact the lives of 1 million people that are going through an entrepreneurial struggle. They're having that thought that I can't reach success. Success is cars. Success is money. Success is all these resources that just aren't in the cards for me. We both simply know that's not true. I want them to help themselves first, but then others realize that there's impact in truly seeing the things that you already can accomplish by using your God-given gifts now, by using your God-given abilities now. So that coming in tandem with, of course, real estate sales. And I've also got a investment in real estate by doing real estate investing itself.
Fantastic. You're both sides of the fence, helping people, but you got to make money. The Bible tells us we make a fortune, what you do with the fortune.
That's right.
And amen, you're doing it well.
Thank
You have a great podcast. I'm going to say it again. You're a host of Impact Greater Than Influence.
That's right. Yep. Just like the sign is greater than influence. And it's funny you said God or the Bible, because I got the idea from He is greater than I. We've seen it before. And I was like, it's so funny that this can look like something that is going to help others for sure. But it's my greatest contribution because it was my self-realization. I've went through all of the things that have led me to seeing that you have to first impact the lives of others before you're the right influence. So people think I'm coming at influencers, right? And they're like, well, feeling offended. Like, well, I believe that they're the same. And I'm like, I'm not saying that they're going to be vastly different. I'm saying that impact is a prerequisite for the right amount of influence.
How you influence is how you serve.
That's right.
10 million TikTok, Facebook followers, or did you help 1,000 people grow?
That's it.
Get
1,000
better,
true
right?
fans. You're a Gary Vee
Amen.
guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Gary Vee.
Oh,
We
yeah.
could talk all day about Gary Vee.
Love it.
Who do you have on your on your podcast?
So this is the cool part. I've actually had it be recommended to me who I should have, and I haven't had but one notable person that is, and when I say notable, everyone's very, very overwhelmingly inspiring in their own way. But like Tony Robbins' son, Jarek Robbins, I actually came into contact with him when I went to a real estate convention, and I was like, hey, I'd love to be able to have, because I was taking a coaching certification in his program. I got to meet him and I got to meet one of his people and I told them about my mission. And they were like, wow, you've got to meet Jared right now. And I was like, right now? They're like, yeah. I was like, I literally 7 years ago was in a trailer in the middle of Fort Walton with no hope in the world watching his dad, right? Tony Robbins inspire the world. I came up with a way to where I could potentially grasp some of that fulfillment myself. And now here I am potentially interviewing his son. So that happened, which was great. And it was a Zoom call. But I bring people from the community into a radio station and have it recorded live. And that's how you hear my podcast.
That's fantastic. You mentioned mission. Let's talk about your mission for your podcast.
Yes.
We're selling podcasts here because, folks, you can tell I have a podcast. Rodney has a podcast. They're a great way to promote your business. Just putting it out there.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about your mission. I'm excited to hear it.
Sure. So I want to impact the lives of 1 million people, and impacting the lives of 1 million people in a certain specific realm. Like you're a business individual, you know that niching down is very important. But I want to help entrepreneurs that struggle. I want to help people that are already inspired and don't just become short-term motivated. I'm very tired of a lot of the networking events where you get to go and actually play the part, but then when you get home, you're not fulfilled. You don't have any of the actual strategies to build into the lifestyle that it takes in order to become a successful entrepreneur. So in that goal, I've started a top 100, and those top 100 people that support the Shopify that's dedicated to putting the funds in the right allocated places are going to get all of this value that I've planned for them. I've done personal development coaching already. I've already typed in like what I've learned from masterminds such as this. Every source of value that I have available right now, I will give to those people because they've shown that they believe in not only me, but the movement of helping people focus on what truly matters.
Where do you think you can teach struggle?
It's a bit multiple times.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. I have had an excessive amount of failure in my life. And it depends on how you look at failure, but I've had tragedy in my life. I mean, my father passed when I was 8.5 years old of a malignant brain tumor. He was paralyzed from the waist down for the past 2 years of his life. And in fact, he was diagnosed in the same hospital that I was born. So these kind of things make me want to look at life and see what it truly has for gifts. And it makes me want to see what I already have inside of me first. And I love Jesus and all the teachings of what he was able to give others, but he was never someone that sought to be a huge influence. It naturally happened from the what? Impact he had on others.
Meeting more.
That's right.
Let's talk to the audience of people that are struggling listening to this.
Sure.
What would you tell them right now?
I would tell them that you're not alone. Every single podcast that I go on, every single radio show that I go on, I have to say those words because they are sometimes where you don't have the right things to say to people. You don't. You can't walk in their shoes. You can't remove situations from their households. You can't take away a lack of control that they have, but you can tell them, I love you. You're special. There's something about you that's going to change the world. You've just got to find out what it is first. And it could be simple as being kind. It could be simple as listening to people. Remember that conversation about the prospective person that, you can go on the phone all day and just buzz through all these KPIs or key performance indicators. But if you don't have KPAs, key performance activities that are bringing you fulfillment and making that other person feel heard, you're wasting your time.
Wow. The best part about it? It's free.
Yes, that's right.
Serving is free.
That's it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I got to buy groceries for the person in front of me. Cost me $2.
Excellent.
But if you don't have the money, there's many ways to serve for free.
That's right.
God walked around for free, or Jesus walked around for free, bringing out the gospel. So
That's right.
Let's talk about some good, that was good. I love talking about what the audience needs to hear.
Sure.
Are struggling. But let's talk about your favorite book or books. We talked about it earlier.
Yes.
What do you suggest for the audience?
So I'm going to give you multiple.
Give
Can't
it-
really settle on one. Richest Man in Babylon. It just teaches you not just pay yourself first. It just teaches you that you do need to prioritize yourself. In tithing, in being able to contribute to society, you have to have ground to stand on. There's a lot of people that say, well, if I had $1 million, I would give away 10,000. No, you wouldn't, because when you had 100, you didn't give away 2. And there's a lot of things that I've done in my life that are questionable. I have my grandmother, who's my very best friend to this day. And she's like, son, you can't help the world unless you're ready to help yourself. Or you can't save everything unless you're first in a good position. And I always kind of took it as like, man, you don't know me. I just want to go out and help. And she was right. You've got to make sure that taking care of yourself is a priority, but you want to put God above everything else. And secondly, I would say the power of habit. It just shows you how we can get into a loop of something we can or cannot control. And you have these cues that prompt these other things that go into what habits you have in your life. Well, people say that they want accomplishment, they want achievement, they want to be able to have great, loving relationships, but yet they're not ready to work on themselves. And those habits are not going to go away overnight. So here's a quick pro tip, right? For the people that are struggling. And you're like, well, I want the right habits, but I don't know how to grow with them. I don't know how to start. And that's mainly what my podcast does. Breaks down the problem, tells how I can relate to it and how you can prospectively see me give an insight to it, right? Because I speak from experience, not theory. And then lastly, it's me telling you where to start to go and start that. So I would say start adding better habits on top of your already bad habits, because you can't go and just cut everything cold turkey and expect to have that ability to have sustainability or have something for the duration of change. That's where the true epitome of that real higher standard is going to come from, is you seeing like, I have to do this until I get out of this.
Yeah. I love you talk about habits. I changed mine 2 years ago, how I dress in sales calls. Baseball hat, t-shirt. People probably seeing me today going, got a sport coat on. Makes a difference. And we're in January. This is being recorded. Talk about resolution, not resolution. Sure. You're probably not. It's a goal. But how do you get to your goals? You just said it.
Honestly, you just have to know what they are.
Yeah.
Right? You do. You have to know what they are, but you have to stay continually focused on what they are. I had a podcast idea on the way in here, and I was like, sitting there thinking, okay, well, what they asked me, what impact means to me, what they asked me, what, the difference in influence is. And I prepared for all of that. Man, I've gone over that for years and years, my own self-realization. But I said, reinforced by your vision. And that was the name of a podcast right there that I came up with. And so I cut a quick video and said, make sure to make a video. Reinforced by your vision is important. Here's what happens every single day. I saved it in an album for later. And then later on, when I'm recording content and I'm ready to go, I'll just go pop that album up.
I love it. And the habits change. Will tie to your, there's so many ways that you can get to those goals, but you're right. If you don't have a vision, I say it's a scoreboard. Right? Football team, football have a scoreboard, right? Baseball. Because you have to know where you're going. You do. Where you're going to end, right? And then move on to the next. Well, I got to thank you, Rodney. But you know what? You're not cocky. And I thank you so much. You really want to serve. You're very successful, but you want to go out there and help others. Let's leave the audience with one great business or professional, personal tip to help them.
I want it to be a personal tip, but if they want personal, they can get it all day at the Impact's Greater Than Influence podcast. I'll tell you something that really was one of the best things I had to realize. Don't wait for the big fish. Go out there and create systems that are serving multiple people, no matter what level they're at. Because when you're waiting for that big investor, when you're waiting for that big break, when you're waiting for that one thing that's going to take all your problems away, you're going to be waiting for the rest of your life.
Dude,